Behind me is the BYD Shark 6. It's a plug-in hybrid ute with a battery pack so big, I'm gonna make a rare exception to my no engines rule. In this week's review, I point at the BYD Shark, I make a cup of coffee, and I discuss anatomy. Oh, bollocks. All that and more coming up right now. As for price and range, well, I'd love to tell you the price, but at the time of recording this scene, I don't yet know it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it on the screen, and then I'll give you two surprised reactions. Are you ready? Wow, that's actually quite a good price. Oof, that's a fair chunk of change. As for range though, I can tell you that. Supposedly, with its big battery pack, it can do up to 80 Ks on one charge. That's a lot for a hybrid. And with its petrol motor combined, it has a range of 800 Ks. But what's it like to drive with? How does it compare to the popular Ford Ranger Raptor? And what do you get for your money? I'm gonna have a lot of fun finding out. Now, I'm no uteologist, but I do know that Kiwis, we love utes. Like, out of the top 10 vehicles selling last year, place number 1 was held by the Ford Ranger. Almost 10,000 of those sold last year. Place number 3, Toyota Hilux. Even the Mitsubishi Triton made a place in that top 10 list, which makes me wonder if this Chinese newcomer is gonna have its hands full beating off the competition. There's gotta be a better way to word that. Let's talk tech specs though, and this, it's an all-wheel drive vehicle. It's got 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the back, with a total motor output of 320 kilowatts and 650 torquing Isaacs. Plus, it's also got a 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol engine under the bonnet, which actually acts not just as a generator to top up the battery, but it has a direct drive connection to the wheels through a clutch. And that gives it a 0 to 100 time of 5.7 seconds. And that, for a ute, is pretty quick. Now, I'm going to test the 0 to 100 time later in the video. Stay tuned. Hit subscribe, by the way. But right now, I want to compare this thing to the top spec Ford Ranger. It's the Ford Ranger Raptor, and it's the most similar Ranger in terms of specs, price, performance to this. The thing is though, well, this is quicker. It's got more power, more torque, it's got more toys, and it uses 38% less fuel. Plus, this costs less. So you'd have to either be a die-hard Ford fan, which I totally understand, or have the financial literacy of MC Hammer to choose that over this. The thing is, Ford owns the ute sphere in New Zealand. Ford Ranger, that's the #1 ute. So I can promise you that now the pricing and the specs have been announced on this vehicle, there will be high-level meetings at Ford and at Toyota to discuss this vehicle. Plus, also the comments on YouTube and Facebook. It's gonna go nuts, so hi Facebookers, I'm gonna grab my popcorn and enjoy the show. But let's forget about tech specs for a sec, because I want to talk about what makes this vehicle special. It's a plug-in hybrid, but it has a massive battery strapped to the underside. It's got a 30 kilowatt hour battery pack, and 30 kilowatt hours, that's a lot. To put it into perspective, the Toyota Aqua, it's that little hatchback we all know that always seems to be in the way whenever you're going anywhere. That, for comparison, has a 0.9 kilowatt hour battery, which means that if you could find a way to force it to run on electric alone, you'd get maybe 2 kilometers out of it. That's about as useful as a trampoline on the space station. This can supposedly do 80, or can it? That's what I'm doing right now. I'm driving this till it goes flat until the engine starts. It's also worth mentioning the battery chemistry in this car. In a lot of electric cars, they use NMC chemistry. That's a high energy density chemistry. And as you can see from this footage I stole from BYD, when you puncture an NMC battery, as you can see, it gets a little spicy. That may be the understatement of the century. But then when you take the blade batteries, that's batteries that BYD use in these cars, they are long, thin strips of LFP chemistry. Look what happens when you puncture it. The temperature rises a little bit, the voltage spikes gently, but the car keeps going, the battery keeps going. You can effectively shoot your battery pack, don't do that obviously, but you can effectively shoot your BYD blade battery and it will keep going. Now that just shows you the difference in chemistry between NMC and LFP. And don't get me wrong, NMC is a safe, stable chemistry, but compared to LFP, well, NMC does look like the same sort of stable chemistry in Fleetwood Mac. But let's talk design. And in terms of ute design, they all sort of look the same, you know? They're kind of like supermarkets in that respect. They're all typically boxy shaped and fairly functional. Though, if this were a supermarket, I would say this is possibly more New World than Pack and Save, because it's well proportioned, it's got clean lines, it's well color coded. I think it's a good looking ute. I mean, the thing is though, you don't want to deviate too far from traditional ute design when you're making a ute. If you make it look too much like a car, you end up with that weird looking SsangYong Action Sport thing. Then on the other end of the scale, if you try and make it look too much like a truck, you end up with the Jeep Gladiola. And there's a reason you don't see Jeep Gladiators everywhere, and that's because typically car buyers, they are born with the gift of sight. Then if you want to go to the other extreme, you can end up with the Mahindra pickup. I don't even know what the designers were smoking when they created that thing. Bottom line is, if you want a ute to sell well, stick to a traditional ute design. That's what BYD have done. BYD ultimately want to sell this thing, not have this thing mocked endlessly by self-righteous idiots on the internet like me. As for design cues on this car, I mean, they've put 18-inch wheels on it as standard. It comes with those relatively coolish looking wheels, I guess. This one, however, has chonkier off-road tires, which will be available as an option. And hopefully tomorrow, if the weather's okay, I'm going to take this off-roading and see if it compares to a traditional combustion ute. In terms of color options though, you've got 4, at least you do at the time of recording this video. A lot of info in this video may change in a few months, but right now you've got 4 options, but only one, the white, is included in the price. Something else interesting, or at least to weirdos like me, is how they've managed to hide the exhaust pipe under the car offset to the side, because the battery pack obviously takes up a lot of space. There's no drive shaft between the front and the rear, but there is a battery pack in the middle, and they've managed to channel the exhaust down the side, raised away. It doesn't stick out, so if you are off-roading, which you can do in this car, you're unlikely to get it snagged on a tree branch or a log. Another design curiosity is that it's got 2 filler caps on this vehicle because it has 2 sources of fuel. You've got petrochemicals, which go on the left-hand side, but then on the right-hand side, you've got your CCS plug. It's got AC and DC charging, and I'll show you the charging speed of both a little later in the video. Also though, if you look down the back, it's got a full-size spare. Now a lot of car makers don't do that, particularly EV makers. To save weight, they cut out the spare tire, but BYD, you put one in, thank you! Why can't more car makers do that? As for interior option, well, it's kind of rugged but simple. You know, what you see is what you get, but that doesn't mean it's uncomfortable. It's relatively soft, it's got soft padded surfaces, it's got good carpeting, so it's well noise insulated. Overall, I think it's a comfortable place to be. That being said, you do only have this as the option. It's the only option. It is this very dark grey, almost black interior, which means in Australia and in parts of New Zealand in the summer months, your thighs will be searing like an ahi tuna. As for comfort, well, it is a very comfortable place to be. As you can hear, I mentioned the noise insulation. It's a very quiet ute. That's coupled with the fact that obviously it's got no engine noise and vibration, but they've padded it out nicely. It rides nice, the seats are comfortable. Yes, it's got seated heats in both the driver and the passenger seat, and, believe it or not, ventilated seats. And that's going to be great in the hot summer months because ventilated seats, they're like nothing else. They just help keep your spuds cool. As for space, well, I am a standard issue human male, 178 centimeters, or in Roman Catholic, 5'10". That's the same height as Liam Gallagher from Oasis, by the way, which means if you're looking for comfort, no, I started doing an accent and immediately realized, Gavin, don't do accents, you can't do accents. Bottom line is, I'm a standard issue human male, and look how much head height I have above my head. You could easily be, I think, 6'2", 6'3", and have still space above your head. Same goes for the back. Look how much legroom there is back there, because normally in a ute, it's sort of like a hippopotamus in a high chair. You know, your knees are up around your ears, but this, you've not only got heaps of head height, but there's also plenty of legroom in the back. That's not normal for a ute. That I'm impressed with. In terms of seat height though, the driver's seat height is quite high off the ground, and it does make getting in and out a little tricky. Fortunately, they've put handles on both the driver and passenger sides in the front and the back, which makes getting in and out a little bit easier. That being said, you've still got a big fat sill and a giant running board down the side. So there is no graceful way to get in the car. And if you have limited mobility, or if you're in your 90s, this may not be the car for you. Let's move on to gadgets now, and this will be a fun segment because this car is loaded with tech. And let's start with what's right in front of us. We've got this giant 15.6-inch touchscreen display. They've got typical BYD stuff built in, heaps of toys. It's got its built-in map system as well. It's got a 360-degree bird's eye camera. It's got androgynous Apple and CarPlay Auto. It's got everything you could want, and it's all wireless as well. And not only that, another cool gadget they've got is wireless phone charging, 50-watt wireless charging, which is a lot. It's enough to make your phone warm up, right? They've thought of that. This is the first time in my life I've ever seen a vent underneath the wireless phone charger, which is air conditioned to help keep your phone cool. Like, that's pretty wild. I've never seen that before because my phone does get hot. That I like. That's smart thinking. As usual, the BYD system also has its 360-degree camera, which is great. The definition's excellent. It's really enhanced by this massive screen too. You can see everything. Plus, check this out. By pushing this little ghost mode button, you get to see what's under the car. Now this is a real handy thing if you're off-roading because it shows you what you're crawling over. That's a really handy thing. Ooh, as we make our way into the city and slow down in Auckland traffic, I can also tell you what I'm looking at right in front of me, a heads-up display. It's really brilliant. It's got all the information you need on there. Shows you your cruise control, your speed set limit. But perhaps the coolest thing about BYD's displays is that by pushing a simple button, The entire thing flips on its side like a Chevrolet Suburban on a very gentle curve. Another thing you get in this car is the Dynaudio 12 speaker sound system, which sounds good on paper, but in reality, I've got to say I'm underwhelmed. It's kind of muffled. It's lacking depth and it's lacking crispness. Now, I've fiddled around with the equalizer settings, but I just can't quite get it to sound great. Other cool gadgets you get in the car are vehicle to load. Each one of these comes with an adapter that you plug into your charging port on the car, and it uses the big 30 kilowatt hour battery to convert that into a couple of 230 volts 10 amp outlets. So it's great if you go camping or if you've got a power cut. And another thing, this is like the piece of resistance, in the back tray, there are no fewer than 3 10 amp 230 volt outlets, which means you can run up to 8 kilowatts of gadgetry, hair dryers, toasters, and potato cooking devices. There's just so much capability with this thing for job sites or power cuts. Another cool thing to look at is this. Look at the center console right now. It looks wild. Look at these big chonky buttons here. It does look like something out of Apollo 13, I reckon. Plus for this giant reddish button, if this were a Bond movie, that probably would direct call the Kremlin. As for the power points on the back, I'm going to try those out, but right now I am battling fast-moving Auckland traffic. As you can see, I'm not moving at all, because I'm doing what a typical ute driver does. I'm driving this into Auckland City, and that's the thing. When I reviewed the LDV ET60, everyone on YouTube in the comments told me that, well, utes, they're only for farmers and tradies. So I went into Broadway in Newmarket and I stood there for an hour if I could find any utes in Broadway, in, one of the poshest parts of Auckland. Turns out in 1 hour I counted no fewer than 71 utes, most of which carried nothing and were all polished up. So it turns out utes, at least in Auckland, they're not driven by tradespeople. They're not driven by farmers. They're driven by Bob from accounts. So this should be right at home if we can get in there. And to add to the challenge, I hope that BYD are telling the truth when they say this can do 80 Ks on a charge, because I'm going to drive 80 Ks and then go to a charger. And if at any time in those 80 Ks the combustion engine starts and this vehicle starts emitting carbon, I pledge to buy 10 tons of carbon credits. That's 10 tons of carbon reduction. It's 10 tons of tree planting. So BYD, don't let me down. We've done 38.8 Ks now. Battery's at 67%. The engine will kick on, whether I like it or not, when the battery gets to 25%. Wish me luck. As I crawl along through Auckland Central, one thing I want to point out, what this car has is regen braking. That is, when you take your foot off the accelerator and slow down, it turns that wasted kinetic energy that would just be used up as brake dust and brake heat, it turns that into electricity by turning the motors into generators. So it tops up your battery just a little bit. Now, like with all BYD cars, the regen braking isn't very strong. It's mild at best, which means that you're probably only going to get maybe 5-10% extra range by using that regen braking, but it's better than nothing. As we're crawling along in Auckland, one thing I do want to talk about is ride quality, and I've got to say, it's not fantastic, but it's not really the vehicle's fault. It's a ute, right? And utes typically have a little bit of that scuttle shake. That is when you hit a bump, especially at low speed, you notice it. The thing is, there's a few reasons for that. One, utes typically have a lot of unsprung weight. They've got big tires, got drive shafts, big wheels. They've got typically a fair amount of suspension travel, and they're quite highly sprung. But this one, like all utes in Auckland, has nothing in it. So you feel it vibrating a bit more. Also in this case, whoever had it before me overinflated the tires. They're almost 40 psi and they should be 36. But BYD have done their best to minimize scuttle shake in this, because they've given it, instead of leaf springs, they've given it coil springs, independent rear suspension. That has helped, but it is still a ute. You will still notice a little bit of scuttle shake. But now we're finally escaping Auckland. We got through the bottleneck. Let's see if we can get on the motorway. Let's see if I can do 80 kilometers on pure clean electric mode before the engine starts, because I don't want to buy 10 tons of carbon credits. 80 kilometers. We've done it. We've still got 33-ish% charge left. We can do it. Oh, thank heavens, I've just saved myself $250 on carbon credits. This entire journey, all day's filming, has been emission-free. That's fantastic. Okay, well, now we can just go charge up. We've still got heaps of range left. Okay, hi BYD.
Hello.
Where's the nearest charger? Oh, look at that, less than a kilometre away. Nearest charger is a ChargeNet charger. If you're going to get an electric car, or if you're going to get a plug-in hybrid that has an actual useful range like this, sign up with ChargeNet. They're New Zealand's largest charging provider. You can drive anywhere an electric car can go in New Zealand using ChargeNet's network. So I'm going to turn around, go plug in, and then I'm going to see if I can improve this ride quality somewhat by loading it up. Watch this space. And we've made it to the charger. I've done 88.3 kilometres on emission-free, electric-only driving. That's much more than I thought. I genuinely am impressed. I was really expecting to have to buy carbon credits, and we've still got 26% charge, although the engine is supposedly going to kick in at 25% charge. Still don't know what that sounds like, if I can even hear it. I will, I'm sure. Stay tuned. Right now, I'm going to plug in, get some charge, and then we'll see if we can improve the ride quality a bit. And we are off, and now this beast has a lot of weight in the back. Yep, I've just spent the last hour with the help of a whole group of people and the neighbors loading this thing up with firewood. There is a lot of weight in the back, and already the difference is night and day. This is what I was talking about. These things want to be loaded up. Holy cow, this thing glides. Okay. Oh, see how it went over that speed bump? It's glorious. We've made a whole new car. Okay, let's go and transport this wood, and then I've got a road trip in mind. Yes, the ride with around 300 kilos of wood in the back was sublime, and I settled in for a comfortable drive, confident that my load was tied down and secure. Once I got home, I plugged my electric chainsaw into the back of the Shark and got busy chopping up that wood, ready for a road trip in the morning. Good morning, it's time for a road trip as we slip it into drive and leave my house. In today's mission, I am heading to Ecotricity to take this thing, well, just a little bit of off-roading, just a touch. Okay, so right now I'm running on electric mode, as you can hear, because it's super quiet. And I'll be running that way until we reach about 50%. Now, right now, because it's on electric, it's effectively climate positive, because this car's running on Ecotricity electricity. So if you haven't heard of them, Ecotricity is New Zealand's only certified climate positive electricity provider. So if you have a house, or a business, or a car that runs on electricity, sign up at ecotricity.co.nz. You'll get some green cred and you save a bit of cash because all the electricity is from wind, hydro and solar. There's no imported coals and gases and all that dinosaur stuff. It's clean, renewable, New Zealand made electricity. Why aren't you signing up today? It's a good look for you in 2024. One cool gadget I want to point out though, even though this car is running on electric right now, you can set when you want the engine to kick on. So normally 25% state of charge, that's the minimum. That's when the engine will kick on. But right now I've got it set to 50%. Now that's handy. That means that when I get to my destination, I'll still have half a charge left, no matter how hard I drive. And if you set it to 70% and you're at maybe 30%, it will charge as you drive. It takes about an hour and a half to get from 25% to 70% while you're driving, but you can charge your battery while you're driving. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to affect the economy too much. I'll see you in Ecotricity. You join me here in Cafe BYD. We're going to do a world first. We have a coffee machine here, and I'm going to see if I can make a latte while in motion on a BYD Shark 6. Don't think anyone's ever done this before. Obviously, we're going to do this very, very slowly, and my driver is fully aware of my inclination to panic. So, whenever you're ready, driver, let's start moving. Coffee machine's on. We'll tell you what, the ride in this is actually quite smooth. We are doing like 1 kilometre an hour. Okay. This is ridiculous. This is why they pay me the big bucks. Okay, oh, we're filling up. It's good, good, good. Tell you what, the ride quality in this is sublime for a ute. So I've been in quite a few utes and they all tend to be pretty horrific. Got a lot of scuttle shake, but well, I'll stop it there. Good, okay, good. Let's get the steamer going. Oh gosh, it's getting angry. I'm gonna try and make a latte here. We've got an espresso so far. Oh God. Oh, it's getting angry. Oh. I think I'm going to be hosing this down tonight. This is easy. Is there anything this ute can't do? It's got onboard mains power, 8 kilowatts of total power, but it doesn't have onboard mains water to hose the mess down afterwards. Oh, there's a tree. Oh my God, it's a steam. It's getting angry. Oh, no. Stop. Okay. There we go. All right. Just put that there. And there we have it. We got ourselves a coffee, the first ever in the world from Cafe BYD. Actually, that's not bad. Now I know how Leonardo DiCaprio felt. I'm the king of the world, running on clean electricity, drinking a BYD made latte. Have you made a latte in the back of your electric pickup truck? No. No, you haven't. Peasants. Okay, fun's over. Now it's time for a little bit of off-roading right here at the Ecotricity Specialized Test Road of Grip, Efficiency and Nimbleness, which has an unfortunate abbreviation, but regardless, you may remember this from a previous video in which we put a classic Nissan Leaf up this very hill. We did that to see how far it would get up the hill. As you can see, it didn't quite make it all the way. And then we ran the Subaru Solterra, an SUV/crossover with moderate off-road ability, and as you can see, up the same hill, it scampered up effortlessly, but that was summer. It's now spring. In fact, it was winter this morning. We had a bit of rain. Let's see if the BYD Shark 6 can go down and up again as easily as the Subaru can. All right, first of all, I'm going to put on the hill descent button, which I've been told will maintain the speed at which I enter the hill. It'll keep that speed and keep all four wheels in traction. So let's pop this into drive mode. Terrain, let's go with muddy land, I guess. Oh, just mountain sphere. Okay, let's get ready to press descent control. Get through the gate. It's a tight spot, and this is a chonker of a vehicle. I know, I see it. Okay, here we go, descent control. 2 k's an hour. Oh, it is accelerating. Oh no, there we go, it's working! Look at that! I'm not even touching the pedals, it's doing the work for me. And it's quiet. Man, this is off-roading in the future. It does all the work for you, and it's emission-free. That was a piece of cake, but can it go up just as easily? Let's find out. Now this doesn't have a high-low ratio because it's electric, you don't need it, it's got that much torque. But what's going to happen on this slightly slippery grass? Can it out-Subaru the Subaru? Ooh. Ooh, that's far too easy, man. That's far too easy. You know what? That was boringly easy. We need a real challenge. I agree. Welcome to hill number 2. This is the second challenge you may remember from the Solterra video with Subaru, and Greg behind me is putting his Mazda off-roader up the hill. Now if he can do it, I reckon I can. That's a very capable off-roader though, although I've got possibly a little more ground clearance. Oh, it seems to be doing all right. Combustion's doing okay on round 2. Let's see if the Chinese newcomer can beat that. Wish me luck. Okay, I can see the land underneath him. I may need a little bit of speed. Keep the towers. Oh, bollocks. I think we're too heavy. Come on, baby. Traction control. What's going on here? Come on. Oh no! Where's the button for this? Reverse out of this? Have we been beaten after just one swamp? Oh, what's going on? Has one swamp beaten the BYD? You got a tow rope? Let's cut to the next scene. I got the only BYD Shark 6 in the country stuck, and the indignity of a combustion vehicle coming to rescue me, man. I'm gonna hang up my electric apron and just resign. Oh, come on, we're doing it. Oh, we're both getting stuck. Well, at least we're in it together now, we're both stuck. Okay, so Swamp 2, Vehicles 0. Quick update, we're both stuck. Greg's gone to get another vehicle, I can hear it. Don't know what it is though. I don't know if it's a ute, a digger, I don't know, a helicopter. Something's gonna rescue us both. Here we go. If this doesn't work, I'm calling it quits. We're doing everything right. Here we go. We're in mud mode, right? Muddy land. No, it went right past mud. There we go. Mud. Muddy land. Here we go. Sand land? No, it said mud. Hang on. It says, when I put mud mode on, it says sand mode's on. So I don't quite know which one I'm supposed to be on. Oh, let's just do it. Okay. Off we go. Let's give it hell for leather. I think we're going to have to call it quits there. Swamp 3, Utes 0. Let's get the tractor. I got covered in crap for nothing. You better upvote this. Okay, full disclosure, BYD have told me that the software in this car, it's got some glitches and they're aware of it and I'm aware of it. This could be one of the software glitches that has got me into this mess. Mud mode seems to show sand mode and vice versa. I don't know. It's probably all user error, but it could be part of the car as well. I don't know. I'd like to try this again when we've got the production version. Right now, I'm just going to hang up my off-roading hat and apologize to everyone watching. Okay, we're going to do it one last time. This time, I'm not using any off-roading software. I'm putting into normal drive mode because I reckon, honestly, I think that's what's tripping us up. No power mode, no eco mode, no off-road modes, just regular mode. Really? It's in normal mode. No, I think we did everything we could. I don't know if it's software, terrain, or driver error, but we've been bested. All right, and with that note, let's do the spud score. Starting with performance, and for a car it's fast, but for a ute it's absurd. 9 out of 10 potatoes. Handling's next, and for its size it's remarkable, largely due to the independent rear suspension and its big battery set down as low as possible to the road, so I'm giving it 6 spuds. As for comfort, when unladen it gets a little bit of ute jiggle on some bumps, but it's streets ahead compared to the others I've driven, so 6 spuds there. Let's talk efficiency now, and on electric mode I averaged around 26 or so kilowatt hours per 100k, with combined city and highway driving on a warm day getting around 87 k's on one charge. Now that's good for a hybrid ute, but it's still a lot of energy consumed, so 4 spuds there. On the motorway, however, on a wet miserable day I got 65 k's going up the Bombay Hills before the engine kicked in, and as you can hear, it's relatively quiet and often unnoticeable unless you're pushing it. Then both the revs and the noise increase. And while running on petrol mode with the battery assisting, I found it consumed an average of about 10 litres per 100k, and don't worry, all the carbon emitted in this review has been thoroughly offset. Gadgetry's next, and where do I start? I mean, this thing's got everything from electronically adjustable ventilated seats. I mean, it's got a vehicle to load adapter, a mobile app's also coming to control the entire vehicle. It's even got a little vent to keep your phone cool. Plus, of course, it's got 8 kilowatts of power in the rear tray, which, as you've seen, works while the vehicle is in motion. Now that's great for charging tools or making coffees on the way to the job site, so a well-earned 10 spuds there. But is it good value? Well, this is tricky. I mean, you can buy four-wheel drive utes in New Zealand for much less than this, but this isn't your basic farm vehicle. You pay a premium for this machine as you do for its closest competitor, the Ford Ranger Raptor. But this has more technology, it's got better performance, it's got better economy, and yet this costs less. So with that in mind, I'm going to give this 6 spuds. As for charging speed, it's slow for an electric vehicle, but it is fast for a plug-in hybrid, so I'm giving it an average 5 spuds. I drained it as low as its software would allow, about 23%, then I plugged the Shark 6 into one of ChargeNet's DC hyper rapid chargers, and it started charging at 58 kilowatts and stayed there for some time. To save you sanity, I whipped up this graphic of its charging curve, but basically a charge to 80% took around 22 minutes, but a charge all the way to 100 took 46 minutes. So I'd only recommend charging this at a public charger if you're planning to stop there for lunch anyway. What about style, you ask? Well, the easiest way to judge this was by how many people turned their heads, and holy spuds, I think I caused a few concussions with all the head turning. I don't know what it is about the Shark 6, but I lost count of all the people who literally stopped walking to watch this thing go by. If looks are to equal sales, then this thing could fly off the dealer lots, so 7 spuds. But is it fit for purpose? Well, the only main gripe I have at present is that its tow rating of 2.5 tons falls short of some of its competitors. Although, as a side note, BYD are planning to launch 3 new utes in the next 16 months, one of which will tow 3.5 tons. But as for the Shark 6, I think it's actually kind of revolutionary. I mean, imagine getting to your rural job site and powering all your tools all day, then driving home in comfort with voice-controlled everything and Raptor-beating performance. In fact, the only time I really tripped this car up was off-roading, when, as you saw, we got it stuck a few times in a swamp, and as far as I could tell, this was due to the car's off-roading software stopping the motor power from being intelligently distributed to each wheel. But this is where it gets interesting. My off-roading buddy Greg wanted to try one last challenge. One little challenge here, one final challenge after a day of filming. We've got the Mazda, the diesel 4x4, the dog's in the back. He's going to go right up that hill, which is much steeper than it looks. And he reckons, oh, you'll be right, you'll get up there. I'm not so sure after the drama we just went through. Anyway, see how he goes. Poor dog's in the back. Yeah, nah. Show's over. I'm not gonna bother with that. If he can't do it, I definitely can't do it. Well, I said he couldn't do it, but he was stubborn, so he went back down the hill and tried again. And he failed again. No, that's all the evidence I need. So he lined up differently and tried yet again. Oh jeez, he's valiant, look at this, take 3. Oh, he's giving it the gun. Despite unleashing all the power those diesel cylinders could muster, it wasn't enough, and he backed down, but of course he didn't give up that easily. Oh, it's so close! Yep, the 4th attempt was the closest, but the tried and tested Mazda Ute couldn't quite get enough grip on its tyres to get over that final hurdle. So he backed down as far as he could, and with the dogs in the back, he gave it everything he had. Jesus, look at that, he did it! The dogs in the back are going to need a chiropractor. Okay, so I've been peer pressured in by Greg. He says I can do it, so I don't believe him, but not after the last ordeal in the swamp. Okay, let's give it a go. Then it was my turn, and honestly, I did not expect this to work. I don't like my chances, man. I don't know about this. So I tried yet again. Okay, my hope at this point was starting to wane, but if you're anything like me, you're going to keep trying, right? So, of course, I did.
I want to do this now.
Okay, this time I was willing to try anything. So not only did I leave plenty of room for a run-up on this really bouncy bit of farmland, but I even put it into sports mode.
I'm going to try sport mode. What have we got to lose?
So if you're from BYD and you're watching this, now is a good time to look away.
I might have to edit that out. BYD is never going to give me a car again.
But while visually spectacular, the result was no better than before, so at this point you're probably getting bored with me failing to climb a hill, but I wanted to try one last time. I simply selected a different four-wheel drive setting in the software, but watch what happens. One click, I did nothing else differently, but the Shark 6 absolutely transformed.
Ah, yes! Victory!
Just changing the software settings turned it into a mountain goat, which brings me to a really important point. The thing is, it's really important you remember that this is a pre-production vehicle. This is not the finished product. The finished product will have all its kinks ironed out, all the mistakes fixed, and all its software polished. There's also going to be some suspension changes. There's also going to be things like this sensor. I mean, this is gone in the production version. So this is a test bed. Really important you keep that in mind. So for all of our mucking about, chucking this thing through mud holes and getting it stuck and spinning tires and mud flinging everywhere and towing it and even climbing hills and even putting coffee machines on the roof of this thing, it's really important to remember that that is all entertainment. I reckon when this thing's all polished and finished, it could be a serious contender as an off-road vehicle. But it's the PSC that matters most, and the BYD Shark 6 holds 66 potatoes in its dash, which is above average in 2024, giving the vehicle a total spud score of 68, and that's not a bad score for this Chinese newcomer, which, at least for me, has redefined what a plug-in hybrid is capable of. Because I've been in a lot of hybrids. Most are terrible compromises of a gutless motor, a tiny battery, and a miserable engine, but this pre-production Shark 6 is something different. It's capable, it's useful, it has a lot of promise for the Kiwi Ute market, which now seems to have blood in the water, and this Shark can smell it.